service is service. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're like, you know, roughing it with no AC or you got a Walmart right next to you. It's about listening to God and being unselfish with your time and looking out for other people.
Today I'm talking to Emily, an incredible young lady that decided to give some time to go into missions, and that became her passion. It changed her life, and she brought that back to continue serving here in the US. So with you, Emily. Emily, welcome to Tea Talks. I am really excited to meet you, to have you here, especially because as I was looking for young people that would be interested to do this podcast, the fact that you have a passion for mission is what really, really got me interested in talking to you. So before we go there, tell us a little bit about you.
So my name's Emily Schneider. I'm a student. I love science, so I'm studying biology right now. Yeah, I've grown up in like North Carolina my whole life, so this place is very near and dear to my heart. I've lived in multiple places. And yeah, like you said, I'm very, very passionate about missions. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but I had like the honor of serving for a year in Palau, and that was kind of life-changing for me. So I really love talking about it because I want to encourage other people to like get out there and serve in a life-changing way.
That is awesome. How was growing up? Did you grow up in like a Christian family, or how was that?
So I grew up in a Christian family, with parents that really loved God and were like trying to teach me that. And so I really appreciated that. I think like most young people, you have those experiences where you have what your parents have taught you, and then you go to try and decide, what do you think? And I definitely went through that period in my life, but I'm really thankful for the fact that my parents prioritized teaching me the Bible, going with me to church, helping me be in environments that were like spiritual, and I think that really kind of shaped who I am today.
Is that the reason why missions is your passion?
Kind of. I think missions is my passion, kind of because I experienced how powerful it can be, and kind of how I got into that was because I just like kept on meeting people that had served, like especially as like student missionaries. So I just had so many friends, and they'd be like, have you ever thought about being a student missionary? I was like, I don't know. And this is like even in high school. I'm like, I specifically think of some friends I used to like babysit for them and like mow their grass and stuff like that. And so it's like I come in to get a drink of water. They're like, have you thought about missions? I go back out. I'm like changing a diaper. They're like, so, the mission field, have you thought about doing that? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I felt like it was coming at me from all angles. I kept on meeting really cool people. And then, I got to a point in my life where I was like, I think this is the time. This is kind of what I want to do.
Maybe it's not just coincidence. Maybe it is God telling me. Because when you start getting from everywhere.
Exactly. You're like, this is kind of suspicious.
Yes. And why did you decide to serve internationally? And how did you choose Palau?
So I started college. I think if I explain this will give a little more context. I started college. I was studying biology, which I'm still doing, but I was taking a lot of science classes, and I kind of went into college not really knowing what I was doing. And I felt a little, after a year of that, I felt a little tired of studying. And I think especially if you're doing something and you don't know why you're doing it, and it's kind of hard, it's kind of, challenging to continue going through with that. And so I was just kind of a little bit tired of school, and I think God used that in a way. And so I had a lot of friends that were like, next year we're going to do a missions year. I was like, okay, like maybe I should do that too. So I had a lot of friends that were like talking about it. And, so I started out with one friend. I was like, oh, maybe like we'll go to Bolivia together. And then, I prayed about it, and, like sometimes there's those things in life that you just can't totally embrace. I never filled out the application. So it was like, I was saying I was going to do it, but I never actually like took any steps. And so I kept on praying about it, and I was like, maybe Bolivia is not the place. So then I had another friend, her name was also Emily, which was kind of funny. And they were like, oh, she like met this person on the campus of the school that we attended. And they're like, oh, we really want you to go to Nazareth. Like, this would be great. So I interview with them. They're like, please come to Nazareth. Like, we'll do anything. We'll talk to your parents, whatever you need. And she ended up deciding to go serve somewhere else. And I was like, oh, I'll still go. But there was a lot of like reservations that I had, just like personally. And so I was praying a lot about it. And I was like, God, like, I was kind of joking. I was like, I'll go to Nazareth if like I see it written in the sky. And I was joking, but I was also kind of like, God, I'm not really joking. Like, I really want to see something from you because I know this is going to be challenging. I want something
to confirm
really
yes, from God.
Yeah, really clear direction so that I know when I'm in the middle of it, I can look back on that and be like, hey, I really know that God wanted me here. And so then I was just me praying for a while, and I really never heard anything, and that was kind of interesting for me. I was also praying for like really strong direction in other areas of my life, and I reached the point where it was kind of like it was almost like maybe the sign is no sign, when you're looking for like such clear direction in such like a strong and miraculous moment. And God can do that, but I wasn't seeing it. So I was like, maybe it's time to think about something else. And I really love kids. So I had a really strong desire to teach. And there's a lot of schools in the islands that desperately need teachers that are mainly staffed by volunteers who are usually students that come there for a year, go back. And so I just had a desire to teach for a year. So I put in my application. I applied to like all these different islands. I'm like, they're all islands. I don't really know. I've never been to them. And I had a friend who was going to Palau. So I decided, her name was also Emily.
Yeah.
And so then I decided, hey, why not go there with someone I know versus just like going just totally on my own. And that ended up being one of like the best decisions ever. So it was just kind of like this slow string of decisions that led me to going to Palau. So yeah, that's how I ended up there.
I love that because it was very similar to me becoming a pastor. Like never thought about becoming a pastor, and things start happening just led that way. Yeah. Now tell me, now you're in Palau. Mm-hmm. What is the daily life of getting out of your own country, your family, being your comfort zone? Now you're in a completely different country. What is the daily life? What were the things that, okay, I imagined it was going to be like this, and things are like, this is not what I expected.
Well, so the first thing that I remember noticing that was different is just, it's an island and it's hot. I remember getting off the airplane and just being like hit with like a wave of like humidity. It's not even that it's warm, it's just like so moist and just like, yeah.
I served in the Amazon. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. And you're so used to like, at least where I live here, North Carolina, you retreat to AC so quickly from being outside. And then it's like you're just out there. And they did have AC in buildings there. So you still got to go in AC.
But it's not as common as it is here.
Yeah. And it's like you're just living and sweat's rolling down your back. And that's just how it is. So I remember that was one of the things that just stuck out to me in my mind. So I was a teacher. So I taught third grade. So every morning, the bus that took me to school left at 6:30. So I would wake up around 5-ish, eat breakfast. Something that was really special is I kind of struggled to have a consistent devotional life up to this point in my life, but everyone encouraged me so much. They're like, it's a time when you're making like new habits because everything's new. So they're like, the habits that you want to make, like really think about those. And so I was like, I really do want to spend really quality time with God. And so that was really important to me. Every morning I would go out, the sun would already be out, and I'd like have some really good devotional time. Get on the bus at 6:30. We would have like a meeting at 7:30 And then, yeah, you're just like teaching all day. I taught like Bible, English, math, science, social studies, you name it. PE in a skirt. That was interesting. Yeah, so just taught it all. And then I'd probably come back to my apartment where I lived with 7 other girls, fellow teachers.
How was that?
You know, it was really fun. And I've heard some horror stories. But I think we really worked hard to kind of keep it a good place.
You guys made it work.
Yeah. Like, I think it took some intentionality, but we worked hard to try to, like, communicate with each other, like, organize cleaning things. A lot of times, cleaning issues, like, can tear apart a whole apartment. But, yeah, it was really fun. We would, like, cook together sometimes, hang out, watch TV shows together. Like, we had a good time. Yeah.
What do you think was, like, your favorite moment?
My favorite moment?
Something that got stuck in your memory.
Something that got stuck in my memory. I think I really enjoyed spending time with my students. I think maybe like doing Bible class with them and like talking about Bible stories, and a lot of them just like seeing them hear these stories for the first time. Just like the fresh eyes and reactions that they had to stuff that for me I had heard many times was just like really cool to see. And also I loved like recess. A lot of times I'd be tired and I just like sit on the bench and just let them play. But every once in a while I go like try to play a game with them and stuff like that, and they loved it so much. And so I would say that's one of my favorite memories.
The bonding moment.
Yeah, I love that.
How about that moment that was like the greatest challenge?
Oh my goodness, the greatest challenge. Yeah, I would say a lot of people talk about feeling homesick. I definitely did miss home, but for me that wasn't like an overwhelming struggle in my mind. But what I did really struggle with is teaching, to be honest. So they talk about teaching, and I thought teaching was just like, oh, you teach them how to multiply. Oh, you like help them understand things they can't understand. But what I didn't realize for 3rd grade is a lot of teaching is what they call like classroom management. So it's like organizing your classroom, where they stand, where they sit, just kind of like dealing with behavior, teaching them to be nice to each other, to be respectful to each other, keeping them on task. And so I went into the school year as someone who's wasn't very comfortable being like confrontational and like calling people out. And that's basically what you have to do. Because if they do something wrong, you can't just like let it slide. You have to go talk to them and deal with the situation. And so
and you don't have experience on that yet.
No.
You're still a college student. You're still like learning all of that.
Exactly.
What did you learn from this experience? Not only the experience, but like what did you learn about yourself?
What did I learn about myself? I think, what did I learn about myself? That's a good question. I think I learned something that I learned in general, honestly, is like relying on God. Just like pray about stuff. Like, and I know it sounds kind of trite. People say that all the time, but it really does truly make an impact. I saw just in a lot of small ways, the ways that God was like, hey, you feel like you're on your own, but I'm doing the small things for you. Because that was what was stressing me out the most, was like the small things. I think I also learned about myself that it was like, hey, you know, everyone doesn't have to like you and you'll be okay. Because there's a lot of pressure, you know, like some days the students didn't like you. Some days their parents didn't like you. Some days administration wasn't happy with the way you were handling things. And I saw myself previously up to that point really being stuck in the rat race of like being a people pleaser. And I still am to a degree, like making sure everyone was happy with you. And then I realized, you know, you try your best, you talk to God about it. Sometimes you still have haters.
Sometimes it's life.
That's life. What you gonna do? Like, you put in your best effort, and that's not always gonna make people happy, but that's okay. You're gonna be fine.
Do you think that like I said, sometimes like some answers like feel like it's a cliche.
Yeah.
But if it's the reality for you, you
right.
know, do you feel like this experience changed your life?
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, I think it changed. Um, it was like, I would say, a growing up experience for me because, again, previous to this, I was just a college student. Um, but being put in charge of 18 kids and having that responsibility to teach them and take care of them and keep them alive, I think grew me in a lot of ways and taught me a lot of things about myself that I had just never been in the situation to like realize that like, hey, you can keep kids alive. So, yeah, I think it changed me in that way, and it also changed me um, just by taking me out of my comfort zone. I think a lot of times when we're in comfortable situations, we know what to expect. We have people around us, we have resources. It's kind of easy to take God maybe a little less seriously. Not that you like have forgotten about him, but you're like, I have all these ways to fix things before I go to God. And I felt like in those situations in my time in Palau, I had a lot less resources, and it made me realize how much I needed God, and how much I needed God even back home in situations where I still didn't have all those resources. It just taught me the importance of going to him first.
We have this illusion that we have everything under control.
Yeah. It's really not true.
No, it's not true.
But we love that. We hang on to it exactly. So tightly.
Exactly. How was the experience with church here and there?
Here and there. I remember going to the church there. So there's a big church in Koror, which is the capital city, and it really shockingly reminded me of the church that I grew up in. Like, they sang the same songs after offering, and so...
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I had been going to churches maybe when I was, like, in college that were a little different in style from the church that I grew up in. And then I get there and I'm like, it feels like the church that I grew up in when I was, like, a young kid.
Was that a positive experience? Because sometimes the church we grew up in it's not always, like, the home feeling. You know? So how was that?
I think maybe some of the things, like, there's some things, like, if I were to create a perfect church for Emily, which is very consumer-minded, maybe I would do things differently. But what I recognized about that church that was similar to the church that I grew up in is it was very close-knit. There was a lot of, there's actually mainly a lot of, like, older people in the church, but they were, like, very welcoming and very, like, open, and I thought that was cool. I appreciated the community, yeah.
What are some misconceptions that people have in regarding to missions?
Okay, I've been thinking about this. I have a couple. I think the first is, I remember looking at people who had served as missionaries and thinking, like, wow, they're, like, perfect, or, like, they're, like, the best Christians of all time, you know? Like, no problems. Like, they've met the Lord. They made it. And I think, yes, these people a lot of times really do have incredible experiences with the Lord. But let's remember, they're all still humans, and we're all just followers of Christ, you know? Yeah. And I think sometimes if you've gone out to serve, or if you know someone who's gone out to serve as a missionary, they kind of get held up to this, like, standard a little higher than other people. And I think sometimes it is true. Like, they're truly exemplary, good people. But again, they're just human. And so I think that's something. Missionaries are just people too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. Because first of all, I was a missionary before.
Yeah.
And I always had this idea that volunteers and missionaries, they're these angels, you know, the halos right there. And then you start meeting people, no, they're just normal people that decided to volunteer.
Exactly.
And they have their flaws and they have their good things, and they're there to learn too.
Exactly.
Same as a pastor, by the way.
Exactly. No, it's so true. So true. Yeah. I think when I went out to serve, I had this idea that, like, my existence would be, like, fundamentally different now that I was in the mission field. Like, it would just be, like, so spiritual, like, all the time. Like, you wake up, again, with a halo on your head. Like, ah. And that's when I truly realized, like, I think serving God, listening to him is an everyday choice, you know. Life kind of, even though you're in different surroundings, different circumstances, maybe different language, different culture, no AC, maybe yes AC, um, life doesn't feel like different in the way that you live it, kind of. But it's like every day. Am I going to have a good attitude? Am I not? Am I deciding to listen to God and where he's leading today or not? And so I was like, it's kind of just life, more life.
I think it's a crash course of things that you could learn in 10 years. You kind of learn in a very short period. I served for like 7 months. It was not even a year. And it changed my life completely. I can tell you before and after missions, you know, because everything is intense. You're learning everything, you know. It's so funny because I served in my own country. I'm from Brazil and I served in the Amazon in Brazil. But I am from the very south of Brazil. The north of Brazil is like a different country. It's a completely different culture from what I grew up. And everything was so intense that, it made me learn to depend on God and to like expedite those things, like you said, like developing a relationship with God and everything. For a young person who is like, I'm still trying to figure out my purpose in life, do you recommend mission?
I really do, actually. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good opportunities, especially if you've specifically reached a place where you're like, I don't know what to do for a career. There's a lot of different opportunities to do a lot of different things. And even if they're not in line with exactly what you want to do for a career, I think you can learn skills that will help you in whatever you end up choosing to do for the rest of your life. And I think when you don't know what to do, the practice of just going out and really trying to listen to what God wants you to do and just dedicate your time to him will pay you back, you know? Like, that time is not lost or wasted. I've seen so many people, I have so many friends that did missions and came back sometimes with specific goals in mind, but maybe more of just like a better framework for how to live their life or navigate the questions that they still didn't have answers to.
Sometimes the mission, it may not even be in your profession.
Yeah.
It just may be that time with God, that experience coming out of your comfort zone that makes you clear your mind to know what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Do you have, I know that's not your work, but do you have information, like if a young person is looking for a place to serve, they want to be a missionary, where can they find this information?
Yes. Okay. I am very ready for this. So, after I returned from my missions year, I actually worked in the missions department at the university that I attend. So I think a lot of times if you attend a Christian university, they might have a missions department. Yeah, and if they do, that's a great way for you to have resources, including training and stuff like that, for you to go. However, I don't want people who don't attend a university to think that they don't have the opportunity to serve. There's a lot of really great ways. I went through an organization called He Said Go, and so they have opportunities.
Pastor Casey? Yeah, He Said Go, Pastor Casey. She's the one coordinating now.
Oh, yes.
She's my friend.
There we go. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, so He Said Go is a great organization that sends people to like the schools in the islands where I serve that really need teachers. They also have a lot of opportunities in the United States, which are really important. And like you were saying, like you being a missionary in your own country, sometimes that gets a little bit of flack from people who don't kind of understand what's going on. But again, I think service is service. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're like, you know, roughing it with no AC or you got a Walmart right next to you. It's about listening to God and being unselfish with your time and looking out for other people. And so there's a lot of great opportunities in the U.S. More internationally, there's also an organization called Vivid Faith. If you just like Google that, they have opportunities all around the world for people to serve. And there's many other organizations that are looking for students that are willing to train them. And so don't feel like if you don't go to a university that has a program, you're not able to serve. If you do go to a university that has one of those programs, though, please take advantage of it, though, because they have so many great resources that will make your experience a lot easier, because there's a lot of things to navigate where it's like you don't really know what's going on, and they've done this before. And it's very helpful.
The first one is, I remember when you said, because Pastor Chris is my friend.
Yes.
But when you said that, I remember the name of it. So is hesaidgo.org?
Yeah, I believe so. Hesaidgo.org. And those are just opportunities like in, I believe.
I think they have it all over.
Yeah, I think those are ones more in like North America. So it's going to be North America, and also includes like the islands. And then if you want opportunities like Europe, on the continent of Africa, Asia, stuff like that, you're not going to find them on He Said Go as much, but you will find them vividfaith.org or .com.
Something like that.
Yeah, Vivid Faith. You'll be able to find those opportunities there. So
awesome,
yeah.
Awesome. Emily, this was wonderful.
Yeah,
I love talking to you and getting this time to know another fellow missionary that enjoyed and changed their lives. So thank you so much for this opportunity to come here and chat.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much.